America, the land of opportunity. That is what America has been known as for generations. President Obama says he wants to transform America. No one knew precisely what he meant, nor still do we, but perhaps we have a better idea. The IRS released a report yesterday showing that more Americans are now living outside the U.S., more Americans living outside the U.S. are now giving up their citizenship than at any other time in history. During the first quarter of this year, an estimated 6 million Americans gave up their citizenship. Ethan Bearman, it's a nation where people want to come to for the land of opportunity, economic opportunity, freedom. What does that say to you, if anything, that a record number of Americans are giving up their citizenship?
Well, that's telling me that they're more worried about their money than their U.S. citizenship, and that's what it is the IRS is now tracking people down overseas. But you bring up the IRS, and I want to take this a different direction for just a second. There was a big hearing in Washington yesterday where a three-judge federal court ruled that the IRS is discriminating against Americans for 270 days. What they found very openly, the IRS was admitting that they are withholding statuses for pro-Israel groups in the United States, and it came out in court, and the judges admonished the IRS for openly discriminating against U.S. citizens.
Now, this would only come from a directive from the Obama White House, would it not?
I mean, it seems to be part and parcel with going after Tea Party groups, conservative groups. Now you're going after pro-Israel groups because, by golly, that doesn't fit the president's agenda in his kowtowing to the Muslim Arab groups in the Middle East and throwing Israel under the bus.
That's a big story, Ethan. The founder, president of the Israel group, care to comment on that?
I think Ethan's on the right track, Rick. The judges said if this was done in discrimination against other ethnicities, the outcry would be outrageous. And literally, they said it was unconscionable behavior on the part of the IRS. So something's really wrong there. But then again, we knew that when Lois Lerner was losing tens of thousands of emails. It seems these people that are going overseas are not only weighing the IRS chasing them versus giving up United States protections, but are probably rebelling against what a lot of people with certain wealth consider to be overly aggressive collection policies of the IRS. And for them, that's they're weighing the pros and cons, and the leaving cons are winning.
And who would think? Who would think that Americans would make a financial decision to go overseas to find it to be more financially rewarding? Elsewhere, we all know that police officers across America are under a great deal of stress right now. Hands up, don't shoot was a lie in Ferguson. They said the police officers in Baltimore were racist. 3 of the 6 were black. And of course, the Eric Garner case in New York, let's not forget that I'm not saying he deserved death, but the fellow broke the law, and he was resisting arrest, and then we saw the outcome. And we see the mainstream media and those on the left marching, crying, shouting against police officers. One police officer in Maryland is showing the results of that stress, apparently. An off-duty officer, while getting in a fight with a man, bit the man's testicles. And now he's in trouble. Is this an example of what could happen under undue stress, Dr. Alman?
Definitely. That people, when you're angry, you bite, right? You know, we chew food when we're angry. We bite and chew. I mean, when we're angry, we want to fight back. And biting somebody, yeah, it happens. It's going to happen with the police. It's going to happen with citizens, yeah.
Where do you go with this story?
I'm going to come out against testicle biting by police officers, Rick, and I don't think that's going to be a controversial stand for me to back up.
You know, and I got to tell you, Ethan, I don't know if what the situation was in the fight here, what the size of the two opponents were, but the adrenaline flows, and you know, lots going on. These guys are under a lot of pressure and stress to begin with.
Well, this is a very specific reaction in my mind. This is my concern for the protesters, very specifically. When you're putting this much pressure on the police force, which is already under a great amount of pressure, the concern that I have is you're putting more people in danger. We saw that with the false accusation of shooting somebody in the back the other day in Baltimore.
Right.
We're seeing this going on where the police are under a tremendous amount of pressure, and I find that to be a dangerous situation for all of us.
It is dangerous. And Dr. Alman, what does that say about the future, the near-term future of recruiting police officers as someone who specializes in stress? What my concern is the future recruitment of police officers and the morale of those currently on a job.
It's true. Well, the training is going to have to improve dramatically. That the police have to actually be trained sensitivity to who they're dealing with, how to deal with people. People are very frustrated. People in the inner cities are frustrated. They are angry. They can't afford a lot of the things you were talking about before, Rick. So there really needs to be an upgrading of the training of how to deal with stress and chaos.
You say this better sensitivity training.
Yeah.
3 of the arresting officers in Baltimore were black.
Right.
I bring that up because, you know, one of the criticisms against several police departments is that the officers do not represent the community which they police enough. In this case, that was the case.
Well, I think that, to your point, though, Rick, it's really the individual training. It's not the race. It's not the background. Each individual officer, each individual needs to be trained with skills of how to deal with people who are crazy, upset, frustrated, angry. So it's really skill building that's required. But it's individuals, not really what culture they come from.
You know, and I believe that this whole thing is not about race. And all, you know, all this narrative against the police. I do believe that these three white officers, 3 black officers, they had a disconnect with Freddie Gray. For they weren't showing any empathy with his pain. I believe that may be more a symptom of those in the lower class communities not having the representation of government agencies, in this case a police force. I'm not saying that, I'm not going on a high horse in advocating against income inequality. That narrative exists, but I think it's one of which has existed throughout civilization, not just
There's one other thing to add to the discussion, Rick, and that is that it seems to me the press has gotten so involved in the creation and legitimization of stories that are just plain fabricated.
Yeah.
And by the time they catch on, and they catch on like wildfire, you've got millions of people believing that a guy got shot in the back when he was trying to run away, or something similar, and so the community fights back.
We're out of time. We're out of time right there, and you're exactly right. I want to thank Dr. Brian Alman, Barry Nussbaum, founder of the Israel Group, and KSFO radio talk show host Ethan Bearman. Thank you each for being part of our Grassroots Citizens Panel. I want to thank you, our viewers, for watching. Back at you again Monday night, same time, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. From the edge of America, I'm Rick Amato. Remember,